All right, so good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in. We'll just wait for 5 more minutes and we'll start at 7:05. So, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to our third online webinar on the series of Build with Python on Azure. So, I'm Shubham, currently working as a program manager at Skillenza. So, like I have mentioned, we have planned a series of 4 webinars on Build with Python on Azure, where you'll be, where will help you to learn and upskill your skills on Python on Azure. So, for today's session, we have Amit Malik, who is the Director of Technology at Spectra. And so before we get started with our speaker session, I'll just tell you about Skillenza and what do we do and the whole agenda of the event. So we are basically a challenge. We are basically a challenge learning platform. So we use challenge model to help companies and to hire better people. So these are some rewards which you get when you register for our platform. So we do hackathons, we have job postings, and we do a lot of stuff. So yeah, so like for today's session, we have Amit, as I mentioned, and so Amit would be like taking up a session, and post that we'll have Q&A. All right. So yeah, and also guys, you can tweet like your experience, like what did you learn and about today's webinar using the hashtag Azure Pi Day. All right. So over to you, Amit.
Thank you very much, Shubham. Hey everyone, good evening, and I'm really excited to be here with Skillinza and talk about artificial intelligence on Azure. So I'm going to share my screen now. So before I do that, I just want to do a quick audio video check. So I hope everything is cool there. You can hear me well, you can see me well.
All, all good, all good.
Perfect. So let me share my screen and then we'll talk about some AI. So
So Amit, you can check the comment section. It will have the comments from Facebook and YouTube both.
perfect. Thank you very much.
All right.
So with that, let's just get started. So I'm going to talk about how you can build AI applications using Azure. Since this series is about Python, I'm going to use Python as a reference language, but you can use any language that you want. Microsoft support any language for all their softwares, all their applications. So you do not have to think that if you want to build an application with AI or having any AI capabilities, you have to learn Python. That's not the case. So this is just to set the base. Today, I'm going to talk about Python with Azure, but that's not a mandatory requirement. You can use whatever you want, whatever language you want, whatever framework you want, whatever you're comfortable with. It's your choice. So with that, a quick intro about me. My name is Amit Malik. I work with Spectra Systems as of today. Prior to Spectra Systems, I worked with Microsoft and Wipro. I'm a developer, architect, and author around cloud platforms, Microsoft certified trainers. I've written a couple of books around cloud technologies. And while I focus on Microsoft Azure in particular, I'm generally open to all cloud technologies and open source technologies. So that's a quick intro about me. Now let's take a look at what we are going to do today. So we are going to look at Microsoft AI platform, what Microsoft have got for you to build AI applications. I'm not going to talk what is AI, what is machine learning. That's I would expect that you to have some little bit of understanding. And I'm going to be keeping this session more of a developer focused. That if you are a developer, how you can build intelligent applications using Azure. How simple it is to build intelligent applications using Azure. That's going to be our focus for today. So I'll talk about what is AI platform. I'll talk about cognitive services. I'll do a quick demo. So we will look at less than 15 line of code, which can do image analysis for you. We are going to take a look at knowledge mining, that how you can extract knowledge out of raw data using Azure Cognitive Search. And we'll also do a demo where in less than 5 minutes, we will build an intelligent search app from raw data. And before finishing, I'll quickly talk about Azure Boot Service as well. So that's going to be our agenda for next 1 hour. I've got interesting demos lined up for you. So sit tight. We're gonna have a good ride for the next 1 hour. With that, let's get started. So Azure AI landscape. So AI is a very vast term. There's machine learning, there's deep learning, there's just too much information out there about what AI can do, what AI cannot do. Then there is talks about how AI can be beneficial, how it can be dangerous. Now, talking with respect to Azure AI landscape, it can be divided into 3 pillars. The first pillar is machine learning. Your typical machine learning models where you would have some data sets, you will train your machine learning model, you will improve it, you will have its scoring increase, and then finally you will use it in your applications. So that's the typical machine learning thing. You can use your R or and like TensorFlow or whatever you want to use, whatever tools and technologies. So it's the same machine learning that you can do on Azure using Azure's technologies and Azure platform. The second pillar from Microsoft is knowledge mining. We have millions of years of historical data around in sitting there in the physical books and stuff. Then obviously we have petabytes of big data from internet. So all that information is just sitting there raw, unstructured. Using Azure's knowledge mining, you can convert them into knowledge and expose them to users in a way that will be beneficial to them. So let's say I want to search something about some place, some history. Using knowledge mining, like Microsoft can put all the history books and everything into cloud for that particular place, and I can just go and search what was happening in Paris in 1600, something like that. So that's how knowledge mining makes it easy to access the information. And finally, intelligent apps and agent. All the AI applications we see today based on face recognition technologies and stuff like that. So that's where AI apps and agents you can build. So overall, three pillar from Microsoft on Azure AI landscape. I'm going to talk about the knowledge mining and apps and agent today. Machine learning in itself deserves a dedicated webinar or multiple dedicated webinars to kind of even touch. So I'm going to be focusing on knowledge mining and AI apps and agent today. So AI for developers. Now, you are a developer, let's say you are a C# developer, typical .NET developer, you build some web applications and stuff. How you can use AI? Let's say I'm a developer, I never did machine learning before. I never did face recognition before. I don't even understand how those things works. So how can I make my applications intelligent? How can I bring those technology in my application, even when I'm not having any background? So that's what I'm going to talk on this slide. So there are three ways you can include AI. So you build your applications the same way you want to use, the same way you had been building for years. You choose your favorite languages, choose your favorite frameworks, and develop the applications, and then just include AI, which is offered by Microsoft here. So that's offered through cognitive services, bot service. So you build your applications the same way you were doing, just add an additional component, and AI service will be provided by Microsoft. If you want to recognize faces in images or emotions in images, you do not have to be a scientist to develop that algorithm. That how do we recognize the faces? How do we recognize if someone is happy or someone is sad? Microsoft's going to do that for you. All you need to do is just include that piece of code which will talk to Microsoft AI services and get you that intelligence. You do not have to be a scientist or be an AI engineer to build intelligent applications. With your same development skill, you can build intelligent applications. Same way, knowledge mining, I talked about it. You just have to bring the data and you have to decide what you want to do with it, what knowledge you want to bring, and Microsoft will take care of the rest. Now, if you are really interested and if you want to create AI, that's where Azure Machine Learning or Azure Databricks, which is managed Hadoop platform, comes in place, where you can create your own custom artificial intelligence models, your machine learning models, your custom intelligence services. That's where Create AI will come in picture. So depending on what your role is, what your aspirations is, you can choose one of these. Or if you don't want to do any of these as well, but you still want to kind of use AI, you can just use it. So if you are seeing my deck, just below the deck there are subtitles or captions coming in. Those are coming in live from Azure Cognitive Services. So that's what you can just use AI. Moving forward, let's talk about Azure Cognitive Services. So Azure Cognitive Services is a group of services available under the cognitive umbrella for around 4 or 5 dimensions. So one of the dimension is speech, where you can do text to speech, speech to text, translation, and stuff like that. There are services around vision, so all the face APIs and image analysis, those things comes under vision. Then there are language skills where you can kind of understand the intent from a written text and stuff like that. Then there are decision-based services where you can kind of detect anomalies and things like that. And finally, there is a dedicated piece to web search. So you can use any of the web search capabilities from Bing. So this is a detailed version of what these services offers, what you can do with it. So I'm going to talk about some of them, and then we'll do a quick demo. But The Microsoft documentation is pretty comprehensive around these things. So depending on what you want to do or what you want to bring to your applications, you can just refer to the respective API and you will have all the details. So starting with speech. So speech to text, which can convert, from voice to text, as you can see on the captions on this PowerPoint slide, without any additional coding or anything. So that's what text to speech will bring. Vice versa, there is text to speech as well, speech to text. Both things are available. Speech translation. So I can actually live translate my audio stream here to a different language using this PowerPoint plugin. So all those things comes under speech API. Then finally, there is speaker recognition. So if there are multiple people talking and it's like kind of a group conversation, the speaker recognition from speech API can bring you the capabilities around identifying the voice, who was speaking what, and then later on you can use to document that. Web search is pretty comprehensive, so you get all the Bing search capabilities. Let's say if you are building an application around news specifically, you can just use Bing news search and get news from all over the world, and then you can do some intelligent analytics on them and kind of represent them in a better way to the end user. Web search, image search, or just regular search as well. Language APIs are there, so you can kind of you can use that in conversational boats. Like if you're using a boat, if you're building a boat to kind of provide some travel services, for example, you can use text analytics API from language services to kind of understand what the user want to do and take an action accordingly, like send that particular request to a different department and stuff like that. There is a immersive reader, which is latest addition to language API, kind of is built for better accessibility. So you can use that service to read out loud all your application captions and labels and everything for disability or any hearing disability related problems you can solve with that. Vision APIs, which is one of the most famous, and that's what we are going to take a look today. So computer vision API can kind of, you can present a photo or a video stream to the vision API and drive intelligence out of it. Then finally, we have decision API, where you can use personalizer. Like if I'm logging into your application, there would be some stuff personalized to me, and that's where the vision API is going to, the personalizer API is going to personalize that experience for me so that I see the things I like to see. I look at the look and feel of the application is designed for me specifically. So all those things comes under personalization. There is anomaly detector API, which is pretty famous and used a lot. So if you are like, for example, credit card transactions or any other, let's say if you are in manufacturing industry, you can kind of stream your temperature data and stuff like that to anomaly detector API. So that's going to be a time series data you will constantly stream, and the API will detect any anomalies in the data, any things which doesn't look good, and it can kind of give you an alert in advance that something may be wrong there, so you can detect problems early. So there's a whole set of services available over there, and the key thing here is, in order to use any of these capabilities, you do not have to learn how they function in the backend. You do not have to be a scientist to do these things. All you need to use is simple SDKs or REST APIs, and Microsoft will take care of the rest. You don't have to be a developer scientist. You just have to be a developer, and you kind of need to just understand where exactly you can use these services. So with that, let's move forward. And let's take a quick demo of how you can analyze images with Python and Azure Cognitive Services. So I'm now going to my Visual Studio Code. That's my favorite IDE. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look at how you can analyze images using Cognitive Services and Python here. So I've got these two sample images. Let me just do a little bit of zoom in. I've got like a image related to mountain. There is a person tracking over there, and I've got a typical image of traffic. So there are vehicles moving around. So I'm going to analyze these two images using Azure Cognitive Services, and let's see how simple it's going to be. So there are two ways you can analyze images or you can kind of, there are two ways to work with Azure Cognitive Services in general. One is you use your REST API endpoints. So no client library, nothing, just plain endpoints. You do REST API calls, you get response, you pass the response, and kind of work from there. The second way is you choose one of the language supported and work with the client library or software development kit, as we call them, and go from there. So I'm going to try with both method here. So I'm going to start with REST API. That's the simplest one. So I'm importing two system libraries here, pretty basic one, request, which can deal with HTTP requests and stuff like that, and simple JSON. JSON is what, so JSON is the standard data payload transfer for cognitive services. So whatever request you do, you get the response back in JSON. So I've got these two lined up here. Now I need to create a service in Azure, which I can call and use in my application. So I'm going to Azure portal now. So here I am in my Azure portal. I'll just do a quick refresh. And here I'm going to create an Azure Cognitive Services account. So I'm going to new resource. I'll search for cognitive services and I'll say create. So I'll wait for this to load my subscription. Okay. So I'll give it a name. I'll call it Easy Python Day. That's fine. Location is fine. You can choose one location which is closest to you for better response time. Then you can choose one of the pricing tiers. There is also a free tier available. Maybe I'm already using that free tier in my subscription, so I don't get that option. But if you want to just try out, you can use a free tier as well. And you can choose the resource group where you want to create it. So I'm just going to create a new resource group here. And I'll say, I confirm. I accept the terms and conditions and say create. That's it. So what I've done is I've created a cognitive services account for me in Azure. I can use this account to call the cognitive services APIs, and that's where I will be billed against. So obviously there's a pricing depending on how many requests you are doing, how much transactions you have. Based on that, there will be pricing. But this is the first thing you gotta do. You gotta create a cognitive services all in one account. Why we say all in one? Because all the language, speech, Bing maps, all those things are available using a single account. You do not have to create multiple accounts for that. So I'm gonna go to one of the cognitive services I've created already. And it takes less than a couple of minutes to create one. So you can always just start with it fresh. And once I go here under keys and endpoint, I will find the endpoint for my cognitive services API. This is the HTTPS endpoint I need to call, and I can use the key. So I can say show key. This is my secret for my particular account, and you can always like rotate those keys if you want to. There are additional capabilities available, like you can attach this cognitive services to a virtual network if you don't want to like go over internet. As of now, I'm going to go over internet, but if you want to do it in a private network, you can do that as well. So I've got this endpoint and key for me. Now I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code. So I filled it here already. I'm just defining two variables, one for the key and one for the endpoint. Then I'm creating a analyze URL. So the URL is going to be, for example, endpoint, this plus specific to the service I want to do. So for example, in this case, I want to use Vision API. This is the latest version, and I want to analyze the image. So depending on what operation you want to do, you have to form a URL specific to that particular operation. It's very easy to identify them. So you can just go to the API reference, and let me bring that as well so that we can see it. So you can just go to API reference, and over there you can see the URL for each of the service you want to do. So under cognitive services, for example, if you want to do face API, you can expand face API, and under overview you will be able to find the path, that what path you need to use. So for each operation you have to choose a specific URL that you need to form. So in this case, I'm going to do a Vision API analysis. So I've formed this URL. Then I'm giving a URL to the image. So this is my image that I showed earlier on from GitHub. This is the image I want to analyze. You can analyze remote images. You can analyze local image as well, which is running on your system, stored on your system. Then I'm formulating a simple HTTP request. So I'm giving the header where I'm passing the key. Then I'm identifying the parameters that what I'm interested in getting. I'm interested in getting to know the categories information, like which category this image belongs to. I'm interested in getting the description. I'm interested in getting the color. And the URL, I've got this URL form. This is what I want to pass as data. If the image is stored on your local system, you will pass that as well here as a local data stream. And then finally, I'm doing that request. I'm posting the basic request here, passing the values, and whatever data I'm getting, I'm getting that in JSON. So at the end, I'm just printing that JSON data as is. So if you see less than 10 line of code, and we are going to do image analysis with that. So I have executed that here, and if you see, this is the response I got. So it's telling me under categories, this image belongs to mountain, and the confidence score is 89%. So that's like the AI service is sure that uh, this is a mountain image. And then you can see some other details like hillside, there is a walking thing, there's a person and stuff like that. And it also generates a caption, a man walking up a hill, with 96% confidence. So think about it, like just with less than 10 line of code, I can drive this intelligence. So you can use these services to build your applications with this intelligence without acquiring any new skills. All I did here is basic web request. So that's how I kind of analyze the images using REST API and Python. Then Microsoft also has got a library. So you can actually use Cognitive Services library as well. With Python, there are multiple languages supported for this. So with library, you do not have to worry about forming these URLs, and it will make the development very easy for you. So I'm going to quickly take a look at the library-based analysis as well. So I'm kind of importing everything I need. So this is the SDK I'm importing. Then I'm putting all those regular things, my key and endpoint. I'm formulating a client here, the computer vision client, which is doing the authentication. So underlying, yes, it is also using web APIs, but the only thing is I do not have to worry about formulating the URLs and doing all those things. The SDK will take care of that for me. So I'm formatting the client here. I'm giving the remote image URL. Then I'm simply running API call here with very basic stuff that describe the image for me, whereas the URL of the image is stored in this variable. All I have to run is this command after all my variables are set, and I will get the response. So in this one, I'm kind of making it a little beautiful. I'm adding like print like what I'm going to do. If there is no caption detected, tell that no description detected. Otherwise, show it. Then I'm also telling the categories that print the categories with confidence score. So let me actually run this now, and we'll see how it looks. So it's describing an image for me. So it's telling a car driving on a street filled with a lot of traffic, confidence 92, and then I'm getting some categories as well that it is outdoor, and it is outdoor with a road. So there is a road involved. So SDK is going to make life easier for developers, but just in case if you don't want to start with a new language or new SDK, you just want to use your regular web APIs and you just want to try stuff, feel free to use the REST APIs as well. So if you see here, in less than 10 minutes, we were able to kind of go through the code and analyze the image. So that's what Azure AI does for you. Build an intelligent applications without being a data scientist or algorithm, without building your own algorithm and stuff. So that was Azure Cognitive Services demo. So next thing we are going to talk about is Azure Cognitive Search. So Cognitive Search is the knowledge mining solution from Microsoft, where you can ingest unstructured data, apply the skills from cognitive services like vision skill, language skill, translation skill, and stuff like that onto that unstructured data, and then kind of build a intelligent applications from there. So this is how it works. You will have the data stored in Azure Store, like SQL database or blob storage or anywhere you want to store in Azure. It could be unstructured data, it could be structured data, whatever it is. So bring any kind of data, then enrich it with cognitive search. So cognitive search does use other cognitive services to enhance the data. So kind of find relationship, sort the data with whatever format you want, and then finally give it to users to explore. So let's say I'm ingesting the data of your results from a university for all the branches and all the years for last 10 years. I ingest that data into cognitive search and then apply some skill around there that this is what class means, this is what it is. So I'll just do some basic skilling that what information I'm interested in getting. And then I can just build a very small search app where even by typing, tell me the result of this name from this year, and it will bring me the information. Without building any application, cognitive search can get that information for you. Couple of examples. So knowledge mining with cognitive search you can do. So let's say you have got a form where there's photo and everything. So cognitive search will scan that, use cognitive search services API to kind of detect the photo, detect the signature. There's an ink API which can detect any handwritten stuff and put that into the text, computer readable text. So you will bring all that knowledge and put into a knowledge store. So knowledge store is what is your output, and then you kind of use it directly or you embed this into your existing applications. So I'm gonna go back to the demo now. We are going to actually try this out. So I'm back here in Azure portal. So I'm gonna create a search resource. So you can just come here to new resource and search for search. Yeah. So I'm gonna search for cognitive search here. I'm gonna choose that. That's what I want to create. So cognitive search is separate than your cognitive services API. So the all-in-one account does not include the search service. So I'm gonna choose, let's say, resource group AZPY. I need to give it a name, which has to be kind of unique. And then I need to choose the region, so where I want to create it. And then pricing tier. Depending on how much data you have to ingest, how much data you want to analyze, you will have to choose one of the pricing tier. And I'm gonna create now. So I'm actually not watching the questions at this time. So I'm gonna be taking a look at the questions in a while, once I'm done with demo. So I'm creating a search service, takes less than a minute to create. After that, all you need to do is bring your data and drive knowledge out of it. So we'll give it a minute. Okay, so this is done. My resource is created. I'll go to resource now and we'll see what we can do here. So I'm gonna start with importing the data. So I'll go to import data, and there are various data sources you can have. It could be Azure SQL or typical SQL Server on IaaS virtual machines, Cosmos database, plain Azure blob storage, where you can even upload a bunch of images and kind of enrich that with Vision API plus search service all together, or any data lake storage, table storage, and stuff like that. So I'm going to start with a sample. So I've got a sample here, which is real estate data. So there are listings around the properties and stuff. So real estate data from US, I'm going to select that and I'll say add cognitive skills. So while I do that, I'll have to like attach a cognitive services account. So the services account I had created earlier, I'm going to choose that. So this cognitive services account will be used wherever I want to do a translation, I want to analyze images inside this data set. So if I want to use any of the cognitive services API along with this knowledge mining service, I have to choose one of the service account. And that's where you are going to get billed as well. So I'm going to choose one of the service account which I already created here. You can also choose a free version, which will give you, I think, up to 20 in one transaction or something. So I'm going to choose one of my premium service account. Then I can add enrichment here. So here I can choose what all things I want to do. So this data is all about text. So I'm getting some text stuff here, like I can extract people name, I can extract company names. So company names will matter here. Like location name will definitely matter, that where is the property. I want to identify key phrases, like what are the key highlights from a property. And if you want, you can even translate using specific language and stuff. So depending on what all intelligence you want to add, you will have certain options here that you can choose. Since this is a plain text-based data, I'm getting like typical text-based stuff here. And then I can choose to save these enrichment to a knowledge store. So I can put it into an Azure table or Azure blob storage. I can even kind of analyze this with Power BI. So there's a pre-built Power BI template for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a search app from this. So when I say next, customize the indexing. So this is where what's happening is the search API is kind of scanning the data and bringing the schema for me. So what all does that contain? So this particular data contains like these all fields, like how many bedrooms are there, how many bathrooms are there, and how many units are available with city and stuff. So here I can choose various things, like which thing will be retrievable, like what information you want to be able to return to the user, which things should be filterable, sortable, and stuff like that, even searchable. So if you just want to use search bar, you can use that. So depending on what information you want to choose, you can choose like how the information you want to present to the end user. You can choose how it's going to be available. I'm going to choose the default one in the interest of time, and I'll say create an indexer. So what happens is at this time, creating an indexer, if you have like a constant data change, the data is constantly changing, you can set a schedule as well, that every hour scan for any changes and add the new changes to the search index and so on. Since this is sample data, it's not going to change. I don't have those options available. But for your custom data sets, which is constantly changing, you can kind of keep a schedule to scan the data and build intelligence out of it at a specific schedule. I'm going to say submit, and this is going to take a couple of minutes to analyze the data. There are like about 5,000 records in this data set. So it's creating index, it's creating skill, and it had happened. Now what's gonna happen is it's going to go and analyze this data. So this is in progress. This will take a minute or two. So meanwhile that happens, I'm going to go back to slide and talk about what are the other use cases of cognitive search. So we looked at this one. This is the second one. Let's say you bring some documents and images, enrich that with the cognitive services, and at the end you simply search. You have a basic search app which will say, show me background on Eiffel Tower, for example, in this case. So bring that raw data and give the flexibility to your users to search for anything the way they want without even kind of using any advanced queries, any advanced SQL queries or stuff like that. Just by using their human understandable language, show me this, they will be able to get to that data. So that's what cognitive search does for you. So it's a fully managed service, built-in AI. You do not have to kind of do any of the analysis prior to that. The search service will automatically talk to cognitive services APIs and get that information for you, fully customizable, and it's built for scale. As you can see, like processing 14 billion queries every month. Some of the scenarios where you can use this particular service is auditing and compliance. So you can bring all your historical audit and compliance data and store it here. And during audits and stuff, you can just search and show that data quickly. Digital asset management, content review and stuff like that. Business process automation as well you can do. So based on certain values, you can kind of set your further function apps and stuff like that to execute. Analyze the feedback, so you can kind of bring the qualitative feedback from your customer, put it into the data set, and then use Azure Text APIs to drive the sentiments out of it and use that with Azure Search. So there are various use cases here. And let's go back to Azure portal and see if it's completed. So I'm going to refresh. So it's still running. Oh, there we go. So it's done now. It have scanned around 5,000 records, and let's see what we can do with it now. So I'm here. There is a search explorer available as well. So if you just want to try look for some data right here programmatically, you can put a query string like show me data from that city, and you will be able to see JSON response here. Or that's going to be again a developer thing. But what about users? So using Azure Search, you can actually, so let me go to my data set here. So the index I built. So, and inside there, I can actually create a search app right from the Azure portal without any additional coding. And this will be a very basic HTML file for me, which I can customize. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to say enable course so that I get all the data. And I can customize the layout of a basic search app here. So it's going to show me thumbnail. So I can choose the thumbnail field here, which I have. There we go. What should be the title? So let's say title of the item which is being displayed. So I can choose that title to be, let's say, location. Description could be just description. And I can create a search app from here. So what's happening is Microsoft created a very basic HTML file for me, which is talking to the Azure Cognitive Search service in the backend, and I can like kind of use it live here. So there we go. So this is the basic search app we built. We are looking at the description. I can filter based on the location and stuff. So pretty interesting stuff in less than 5 minutes that you can build. So this is just like kind of for POC purpose, and all this information is available like immediately, like, constantly. So the data is updating in real time for me. So that's what Azure Search brings to you. The best part here is you can use these services inside your applications. So all you need to do is kind of embed the Azure Search capability inside your applications, and even like and that's it. Like in the back end, it doesn't have to. Like your users won't even see what's happening in the back end, and for them it's going to be like a very smooth experience. So here I can say, let's say bedroom or something. I can search, and it will automatically show me some auto suggest as well that this particular property has got 2 bedrooms and stuff like that. Beautiful bedroom floors. It's searching for that keyword. Show me property in Seattle. You can like kind of show based on that as well. Then it's going to show me property from there. So that's Azure Search, Cognitive Search for you. Knowledge mining with Cognitive Search. So play around, look at the documentation, and see what you can build with this, how you can use this in your applications. Last thing, the bot service. So bot, a chat bot, it could be a voice-based bot. Bots are like kind of part of life, Siri or all those things. I would call them bot. So they're part of life these days, and they're becoming pretty popular, replacing a lot of manual work or people as well from their jobs. We all know that, but that's the way to go. We have to automate the things, and we have to put our efforts in a place where it matters. We have to focus on our business functions while these technologies takes care of the rest of the stuff. So Azure Bot Service is your platform to build intelligent bots. So it could be the most typical example or use case of it is a customer service kind of thing, where you can put a bot on your website and users can come over there and ask questions and stuff. So let's talk about how you can build bot with AI, Azure AI specifically. So there are 3 ways you can build a bot. One is build an enterprise-ready bot with Microsoft Bot Framework. So that's where you will use one of your favorite language to kind of develop the bot, and it's going to be highly customized for you. and there's no limit over here. You can literally do whatever you want with no limitations. There is a virtual assistant solution which is kind of pre-built, pre-packaged items for different industries. We can just start from there and modify it for your use. So that also use, obviously everything does use the bot framework in the back end. It's just that the virtual assistant makes it easy for you to get started with the bot. And again, that's also a development thing, so you will have to develop it with one of your favorite language that you want to choose. The last thing is the Q&A bot. That's the simplest one, and you do not have to write even a single line of code to build a bot for, which is going to be very simple question and answer bot, limited to a certain AI capabilities. So let's talk in detail about these things. Bot Framework Composer. So this is a new tool launched, I think, around a year back from Microsoft. So this is a UI-based tool, canvas designing, where you can kind of choose the bot flow. That if a user comes in, do this first, show this message, and then based on that, you can kind of design a flow, put some conditions and stuff like that. And so this runs on the top of your bot framework. It includes inbuilt natural language understanding for you. So based on that, you can kind of take some questions and decide the further steps. So typically, any bot framework kind of works on two different things. Like one is what is the object you're dealing with, and what's the intent. Let's say I want to book a hotel. Booking is my intent, and hotel is my entity that I'm interested in. So this bot framework composer or framework in the back end will get you that information from the question that user is typing, and based on that, you can kind of redirect them to the corrective next step. So it's a very nice tool to kind of build bots in a canvas. We can design the entire flow easily, and obviously use it with one of your favorite language. So bot framework is your development framework to build the bots. Bot composer is a canvas where you can kind of design the entire flow. Bot service is the component which will make your bot available to the users. So you will deploy your Azure bot or the bot that you built onto Azure bot service, and then you can kind of connect it with any of your famous channels like Teams channel, Office 365, Skype, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and stuff like that. All these integrations are inbuilt. You do not have to do any additional coding or additional things for this. You just have to get the right endpoints and API keys, and you will be able to expose your bot service directly. So that's where you will deploy the bot. Virtual assistant, we talked about it. So it's built for industries specifically, kind of, Microsoft have done a lot of work for you already. So you can just take that work, take those ARM templates and pre-built solutions and modify that for your own interest. So it's an easy way to get started. Q&A maker. So Q&A maker is very simple. Just write a set of question and answer in an Excel. That's it. Just write an Excel, put the question, and maker will analyze that data and build a bot around those questions and stuff. So simplest way, no coding required, nothing required. You can kind of define the personality as well, like professional, enthusiastic and stuff, so that the bot looks more humanly. So that's what Q&A maker is, a simple bot with no coding or no development experience required. So that brings to end of our presentation. And before I kind of move into Q&A, I just want to talk development things. We have been developing applications for a long time. AI is the big thing that we always say, it's going to change the world, or it's already changing the world. Building intelligent applications is not difficult anymore with Microsoft, Amazon, and all these top companies bringing the pre-built API AI for you. So just while you're developing your application, just think where you can use these services and enable better experience for your users. From a career standpoint, as a developer, all you need to do is just use those specific SDKs and stuff over there, and you can kind of call yourself an AI development engineer because that's what you're doing there. Obviously, if you are kind of scientist type, you can kind of go and build AI as well, create AI as well. That's obviously the best case scenario. But nevertheless, you have this opportunity to use here. In order to learning, there is enough content available on Microsoft Learn So just go to Microsoft Learn, browse what are the learning path available over there, and try them out. So one last thing, then we can kind of start on the questions. Is I'm from Spectre System. This was Amit Malik for you. We are hiring developers. We are doing some cool stuff around Azure and AI. So we have got some openings over there. If you're interested, just take a note of the URL, bit.ly/Spectra Dev. There are multiple positions, so do apply. And that's all. I'm gonna stop sharing now. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm gonna take a look at the questions now. So just a sec. Shubham, you want to kind of?
Yeah. So thanks a
Yeah,
lot, Amit. Even like we will, I'll wrap it up after Q&A. So
sure.
I'll just display the questions on the screen, or shall I read them out for you? How does it work?
Up to you.
Can you just see the
I
question?
can read. I can read. Yeah, I can see. I see
Oh,
it now.
cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
So I'm gonna start from the bottom. So how do you differentiate between text-to-speech API and immersive reader API? So immersive reader API serves different purpose than text-to-speech, even though kind of they are doing the similar thing. So text to speech, you supply some sort of text, and Azure will return you audio files, which is kind of speaking those texts. Whereas immersive reader is a service which you will embed in your application, and that will not just translate the text that you are providing, but the entire application. So it's primarily built for accessibility purpose. Let's say there are people with hearing disability and so on. They even need to be able to read the button, like what does the button says. So that's where you will use the immersive reader, where it can read aloud the, you are on this page. This page you can do this things. You can click here to do that thing. So that's what immersive reader is going to do. Whereas text to speech is you just supply text string, and Microsoft will return the audio files to you. So that's what it does. I hope that answers the question. Okay. So there's a question here. We are analyzing images or tailing asset
This
store in cognitive services online.
so this is
So
in context with your the live demo which you were showing.
yeah, yeah. So images belongs to you. You own them. So you will supply the URL, all the file data directly to cognitive services, and cognitive services will return the data to you. But when you create a cognitive services account, you accept terms and condition where I'm not sure about the exact language, but it does say somewhere that Microsoft will use these images to improve the service. So yes, Microsoft may be storing them in backend. I'm not sure about that, but they are definitely improving their service to learn from the images and things you are doing and improving it for the better. So yes, there may be things stored in the backend for improving the service purpose. Okay, then I think that's pretty much all I see. Yeah, that's all I see. So yeah, we still have 7 more minutes, so let's make use of it and do put some questions, thoughts. If you're interested in like how to get started with Azure and stuff, we can talk about that. So just put some questions over there, and I'll be happy to take them. So there's a question. So is it create container or we take from it? So I'm not sure if I understood the question correct, but cognitive services runs in cloud for you. Images you need to store somewhere, and kind of stream that data to Azure Cognitive Services. So images you have to store somewhere. You could store in containers, in Azure Blob Storage or file system or any other like data store. Doesn't matter. So yeah, that's what it is. So there's a question how fake news can be handled using Azure. So that particular use case I have not tried out, but there are a few things that can be that I can talk here. One is the Bing News APIs. So you can use those APIs to kind of verify the news, but you may have to build some stuff over there. I'm not sure if there's a specific thing just for fake news API, which is fake news which is available, but you can definitely try out the Bing News API. Some additional stuff. There's a content moderation API you can do. So if you're kind of crowdsourcing the content from different streams and then enriching that. What you can do is you can use content moderation API to remove those, any offensive words or any, I think even it even goes to hate speech and at that level. So if you are doing like some video and photo stuff, it can remove any of the adult content and stuff like that. So that you can use if you're kind of crowdsourcing the content. So those are the two options I can think of right now.
All right. So
But that's
we
a
have
pretty interesting use case. Yeah.
one more question, Amit. I'll just display it for you.
Oh yeah. So is there a method to handle large data set with better memory management for each component of our respective application? Method to handle large data set with better memory management for each component of your respective application. So that's where I think microservices architecture comes in place, where depending on your application component, you will have to choose the best way to run it. So if it's like event driven stuff, you may choose like Azure functions. If you like, even like Azure durable functions are available. So it will really depend on what your application want to do, and then Azure provides you various ways to host them. You can obviously use Azure VMs, though that's not the best way to do things today. I don't recommend that. Go the PaaS way, go the managed way. So you can use like Azure App Service in a premium environment if you have got like high data set applications you need where you need better memory management. Azure App Service is like one of the oldest service of Azure. That's what I would recommend. If you are kind of looking at containerized based thing, ACI does great stuff where you can run, burst out the containers. Azure Batch you can use. So kind of follow that microservices architecture, divide the component based on what they need, and choose the best service to host it. But there is no one single service kind of which is, there's no one single thing fit for all. So there's a question how to integrate an on-prem data source with cognitive services. So cognitive services data store can be remote. Like you just have to pass the URLs. So in order to use on-prem stuff, there is a cognitive services available in containers. I think that's a new thing launched recently. Cognitive services on edge, where the service will literally run inside your on-premises data center. So you do not have to even upload your data somewhere on the internet, or you do not even have to make your data accessible over the internet. You will run the cognitive services container inside your data center, keep your data inside your data center, and then the cognitive services edge components will kind of go and do the AI stuff. In fact, I'll put a link in the here.
Yeah, you can just
Cognitive,
put in the private chat. I'll share with them.
perfect. Cognitive services on edge. So you can run cognitive services on IoT edge devices. So that's what basically you do not have to kind of stream the data over internet. But if you want to, you can use Azure Data Factory and stuff to kind of keep a copy of data in Azure Blob storage and use it from there. Then there is a question that car image can identify which model products for claiming insurance. Yes, it should be able to do that. So what you can do is you can kind of use the Vision API along with Text API. Is in fact that's a very good use case. So toll booth we all go. So in on toll booth when the car approaches, the camera can take a photo of the car, read the numbers, and charge you on that. So that's a very good use case that we have seen. In fact, there is a nice lab around available around it. I'll put a link to that as well. Serverless architecture. It's a pretty comprehensive lab from Microsoft, which you can try on your own subscription, where you will literally do image analysis, text analysis, and stuff. So I'll put that link as well. So the question which was around insurance, I would say try out the lab which I'm talking about, because that's the key thing they are talking about. They are like kind of taking photos on the toll booth and analyzing them and then sending them the bill directly. So your use case kind of, you might get some answers from there. So I have used Azure for training and testing models in Azure. Does there any method to find the score for our accuracy as well? So for the cognitive services, for each response, there is a confidence score. There is a percentage given to you that, you know, what was the confidence on this result, whether on the accuracy of this result. So you'll have to build your application to kind of, keep that thing in mind as well, that you may not want to use the items which are less than specific confidence score, like less than 90%, less than 80%. Whereas if you are creating AI, then you will have to kind of keep training your model and keep improving the accuracy and keep improving your score. But with cognitive services, the confidence score comes with each component. Based on that, you can kind of take a call. So I think that brings us to the top of the hour.
Yeah. So, well, I guess. So thanks a lot, Amit, for all this amazing
Absolutely,
insight.
these were really nice questions. I mean, I hope this
Okay.
was helpful. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah,
over to you.
I'm sure. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Amit. I mean, it was really, it was really great hearing to you, and for all those amazing insights too. So I'm very sure, like our viewers out there also have found it informative as well, because there was a lot of questions. So, well, yeah. So thanks a
Indeed,
lot for joining, everyone. And like we mentioned, this is a series of webinar, and we have our last webinar, which is on 27th of June. So that would be on serverless, which would also be in Azure. Also, we'll be having a quiz on this, which will go live on Tuesday. And in that quiz, like whatever Amit has covered today, the questions will be based on that. And post this, so we also have a weekly challenge running up of Azure Pi Day. So, like by signing up for this challenge, you can just you can stand a chance to win this Azure Heroes badge. Okay. So, well, thank you again. So,
all
thanks,
right.
Amit.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shubham. Thank you, everyone.
It was a great experience.
Have a good rest of your week.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right,
Bye bye.
bye.